up gang signs. I seen Biggie throwing up this. Biggie don't know nothing about no gang signs.
But Biggie's allies say he had no gang ties.
Big wasn't involved with any Crips. In terms of Biggie throwing up gang signs and pledging that he is a Crip and he's down with these guys, no, that's never happened.
And according to Biggie's friends, he was never in Las Vegas the night of the Tyson bout. He was here at his home in Teaneck, New Jersey.
We watched that fight at home. Big was in the studio early that day. Did what he had to do in the studio, then went back home and we watched the fight. We wasn't nowhere near Vegas.
We were in the recording studio actually recording a record, Nasty Girls. We were in and out of the studio pretty much all day. In the session itself, it was really just myself, Big, the engineer, a couple of cats running in and out of the session, just trying to see what's going on.
No photos have yet been found placing Biggie in Vegas the day of Tupac's murder.
I know where Big was at that day. At the end of the day, you got to place Big in a suite at the MGM Hotel that day. But I want to see some information that could put him in Vegas. If y'all really believe he was out there, you had a boxing event where it's athletes, actors, rappers, people from all over the world. MGM Hotel sold out, and nobody seen this 300-pound, 6'4" dude walking through there with a Kango on. Come on, man, you know, it's nonsense.
The attorney for Tupac Shakur's mother says Afeni Shakur isn't convinced Biggie was involved either.
We don't know what happened. And we're not prepared at this point in time to point the finger at Christopher Wallace. And that's Afeni's position. Too many times she has found that people point fingers at the wrong people because they're convenient targets. She will not do the same.
Chuck Phillips says he stands by his story. Coming up, other theories and other suspects.
It was conceivable that Suge Knight set this whole thing up.
When Who Killed Tupac Shakur returns.
Check it out, straight from Brooklyn.
The LA Times investigation into the murder of Tupac Shakur led directly to fellow rapper Biggie Smalls. Others have advanced another theory. Russell Poole, a former Los Angeles police detective, was investigating Biggie's death when he became curious about whether there were connections to Tupac's murder. Like the LA Times report, Poole initially focused on Orlando Anderson's role in Tupac's death. Anderson was beaten by Tupac and Death Row Records boss Suge Knight in the MGM Hotel lobby. When Poole reviewed the videotape, he was surprised at Anderson's reaction.
He's there taking a beating, and then he gets up and he doesn't want to report anything.
The detective suspected that Anderson may have been a trigger man for the real mastermind in the case.
According to witnesses, bodyguards that work for Death Row Records, they said that it was conceivable that Suge Knight set this whole thing up.
Why would a record label chief want to kill his top artist? Poole's theory was that before Tupac died, he was going to break with Death Row.
Because Tupac Shakur was such a busy artist, he was unaware that Suge Knight owed him millions of dollars. Word got back to Suge Knight that Tupac Shakur was going to move on and start his own company and get away from Death Row. So he's got a motive. He's got several motives.
That leads to the obvious question, why would Suge put himself in the path of flying bullets?
Now, why would a man put his life in danger in this drive-by shooting? But you got to remember, shoot down low in the door. It's got to go through the door, and it's got to go through human flesh to get to Suge Knight.
After Tupac was killed, Suge refused to cooperate with investigators. He explained why on national television in 1996.
It's not my job. I don't get paid to solve homicides. I don't get paid to tell people.
Suge did not escape the evening scot-free. He was found guilty of violating parole for helping beat up Anderson. He served 5 years in prison. But LA Times reporter Chuck Phillips doubts Suge had a role in the murder of Tupac.
My sources say that's not what happened at all. It was the Crips who wanted to kill him, and it was because he disrespected Orlando. They say Suge Knight had nothing to do with this.
Suge Knight has long denied he had anything to do with the murder of Tupac. He declined VH1's request for an interview. For friends and family, the failure of police to arrest anyone in connection with either case is still a very painful subject.
I don't think they ever attempted to solve it. It was done. Oh, good job. Not just Tupac, but his nigga killing nigga. Who gives a...
It just appalls me that nobody has been arrested for those two deaths. You know, and it's like a big cloud with a question mark on it.
In September 1999, Valletta Wallace and Afeni Shakur, mothers of the rappers, appeared together to plead for peace.
The memory of our sons, Tupac and Biggie, should continue to inspire us and unite us.
When the LA Times story broke, Valletta Wallace was quick to reach out to Tupac's mother.
We received a call from the Wallace family that they wanted to join with Afeni to request a federal investigation of the murder of the two men. Our position is we don't trust any governmental source at this point.
And now rappers on both sides worry that the LA Times story may disturb the uneasy peace between the coasts.
So that's why I don't understand who's bringing this up and why are they? What's to be gained? Because if it turns out to be true, there's going to be more bloodshed and people getting killed and hurt.
It was just cooling down. Now they just put more fuel on the fire and trying to blow it up again. It could get serious, man. You know, some people could get hurt.
6 years later, answers that only raise more questions and bring more pain for the friends and families of two of hip-hop's greatest rappers, all of whom want closure, but not necessarily the way it's portrayed by the LA Times. For VH1 News, I'm Allison Stewart.
Now we was once two brothers of the same kind, quick to approach a ghetto cutie with the same line. You was just a little smaller, but you still